Okay, we're back. We're back. I've got a big delay on my end.
Afternoon.
I've got a big delay on my end. Let me see here.
Afternoon.
I've got a big delay on my end.
That's a huge delay.
It is.
That's a huge delay.
It is.
That's just the delay for the stream, though, not for us here, though, right?
Probably. Are y'all watching on YouTube?
No, we're watching you on.
Oh, just on
just
this?
the delay for the stream, though, not for.
On L Zoom.
I hear you when you say it, but then it echoes.
Yeah, that's just because he's listening to it over there as well. Yeah, but for us here, it's not delayed. It's just going to be delayed on the actual YouTube video.
Okay.
Yeah, that's just because he's listening to it over there as well. Yeah, but for us here, it's not delayed. It's just going to be delayed on the actual YouTube video.
Okay.
Yeah, that's just because he's listening to it over there as well. Yeah, but for us here, it's not delayed. It's just going to be delayed on the actual YouTube video.
So guys, if I've got y'all muted, so if you need to talk or something, just unmute. So guys, if I've got y'all muted. Okay. All right. So now we're going to talk about diffusion, right? And I think the reason why. So now we're going to talk about. Man, this delay is going to kill me, guys. Diffusion, right? And I think the reason why. Man, this delay is going to kill me, guys.
Sir, you wouldn't need to have the actual audio up on your YouTube stream.
I don't do. Oh, maybe that's what I'm hearing. Hang on. Yeah.
Sir,
yeah.
You wouldn't need to have the actual audio up.
That might be what I'm hearing.
Stream.
Hang on a second. Oh, maybe that's what I'm hearing. Hang on. Hang on. Yeah. That might be what I'm hearing. Hang on. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I think that's better.
Leave it up to Suda to figure it out.
Yep. Good job, Suda. I'm glad you figured it out.
Yeah, couldn't rely on Kirshner.
Thank you, Kirshner, for figuring it out.
Alden needs to be let into the meeting.
What's that?
Alden needs to be let into the meeting.
Oh, God, I got to figure out a way to change that too. Because that's killing me. Let's see here. Participants. I got him. Okay. Does everybody still see the slide?
Yep.
All right, good. All right. So when we're talking about diffusion, and we're talking about substances, going in and out of the cell, intracellular fluid and extracellular fluid are extremely important. And important for you guys to understand it because you're going to be, starting IVs and giving fluid. So you kind of need to know like why you're doing it, what's happening at that cellular level when you're doing it. All right. And so the first thing that we talk about here is facilitated diffusion. Okay. And so again, we're moving substances from a higher concentration to a lower concentration. So when you give that sodium chloride, right, a bag of fluid, what you're doing is if that intracellular fluid is low, it'll actually cross over that cellular membrane and filter in to the intracellular fluid, which is, pretty cool, right? And so that's what facilitated diffusion is about. When we're talking about a concentration gradient, okay, because we sometimes have to overcome that. And what we're saying is it's natural, right, for a substance to move from an area of higher concentration to an area of lower concentration. But the difference in the concentration of a substance on either side of the cell membrane, remember, the side on the outside of the cell is that extracellular fluid, and on the inside of the cell, that's intracellular fluid. And sometimes there's a difference in the concentration of the fluid from inside or out, and that would be defined as a concentration gradient. So at that point in time, the cell membrane is going to play an important role in the flow of that part of the concentration gradient. It's going to determine what is allowed to come in and not to come in. All right. So on this, when we talk about facilitated diffusion, energy is not required. So that's good. All right. We don't need ATP in this case to make it work. When we're talking about molecules, maybe you have two molecules of sodium on the extracellular, and maybe if you have two molecules of sodium on the inside of the cell, that number of molecules transports directly proportional to the amount of concentration. So if I have two molecules of sodium on the outside of the cell and one on the inside of the cell, well, it's going to be a natural tendency for that fluid to want to equalize so that it has two on the outside and two on the inside. And you don't necessarily need to understand molecules and atoms or none of that stuff. I just need you to understand that there's an intracellular fluid and an extracellular fluid, and they need to be even. If they're not even, there's going to be adjustments made, right? Because the body, to maintain that homeostasis, it wants it to be even, an equal number of the concentration. It wants it to be the same. And so usually that is acquired or handled through facilitated diffusion. All right. And so that's all you really need to know. And if it gets, and it's the cell membrane that helps in that process as well, because it's not going to let something come inside the cell that's not supposed to be there to mess up that concentration. So what if we have something that, let's say we have 3 molecules of sodium, and maybe we have 1 molecule of sodium on the inside of the cell, and we have 3 molecules of sodium on the outside of the cell. And let's say there's a concentration that makes a concentration gradient happen, then we need something called active transport to assist us in the movement of a substance against the concentration gradient. All right, so what if we have to move something? What if we have to move something from outside the cell to inside the cell, and the cell membrane says, no, you're not coming in? Hang on, let me close my door because the cleaners are here and they're back in. So in that case, we're going to need to have a different term to handle that. And it's not going to be for free. It's going to require energy. All right. And so that's when we start talking about terms like endocytosis and exocytosis. All right. And so the definition is that it's a process that uses energy from the cell to move a substance into or out of the cell, and it doesn't cross the cell membrane. So we need to bypass the cell membrane. Yeah, you know, just being an ass. It's like, I'm not letting you in. Or be like somebody telling you guys, I'm sorry, you can't do that. Well, there's got, so a lot of you guys are like, I'm not taking no for an answer. There's got to be a workaround. I got to get locked in. Let me get locked in and let me think about what the workaround here is. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what this is basically going to do. But just like with any medical terminology, it's not enough to have endo and exo. We got to have 3 forms of endocytosis. Okay, so no problem. We can still do this. Remember, we're talking about moving something into the cell by bypassing the cell membrane. And there's 3 forms of endocytosis. So we have pinocytosis, phagocytosis, and receptor-mediated endocytosis. And, I'm not quite sure. I don't think anything like this is probably going to be asked of you on registry. So I'm not going to be like on the exam trying to jack you up on this stuff. Just know that certain incidents occur that we have to send something to inside the cell, and that the cell membrane says, no, you can't come in, and there's got to be a workaround. And I think we're good there if you understand that. I'm not going to sit here and try to teach you an AEMT level 2 class in a week. It's not going to work that way. So don't get stressed out. Just think about it like that. So here we have in this slide here, it's an example of facilitated diffusion. And you see here, we have some type of solute molecule. It's going to come to the inside of the cell because none of it's represented there. It wants to go from higher to lower. And in this case, it's allowed to come in. It's facilitated, requires no energy. But we know that active transport does require energy. And so you'll notice that here we have like an iodine ion, right? And so it's it has to be recognized by a receptor site. So this is like a receptor mediated type of diffusion. The receptor site says, oh, I recognize it. And as long as it recognizes it, it opens up these gated channels here to allow it to come in. Other forms of endocytosis, when we're talking like phagocytosis and pinocytosis, is that what happens is it will be recognized by the receptor site, or in this case, recognition site. It lands here, and it like engulfs the iodine, in this case, the iodine ion. It engulfs it. It's like it swallows it and then spits it out on the other side. It changes the shape of the gated channel. So that's an example of that. And I'll see if I have a picture of those. I think I probably do somewhere. And then osmosis. We talked a little bit about osmosis, I believe. And all we're talking about here is
the more. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So on that last picture, is that ADP? Is that what's allowing that iodine to get through?
No, it's do you see where it says binding site here? So that binding site, or sometimes called receptor sites, it's going to recognize this guy right here, and this guy's going to come into this channel. If it's recognized by a receptor site, that it will allow this to come in. It has to be recognized in order to be able to come in. The cell membrane is not going to be the one who actually recognizes it. It's part of the hormones job and some of the other proteins that will activate this channel to allow this to come in. The cell membrane is selective, right? But if a hormone or something like that lands up here and says, yeah, activate this for iodine, then it will allow it to come through this gated channel. But what ends up happening is, let's say for some reason, you have a deficiency of iodine inside the cell, and the brain reads that and goes, okay, we're low on iodine. And let's just say, for instance, we'll make up a name. We'll say the brain says, okay, I need to activate the iodine hormone X. And so it activates that hormone. And your cell has millions of these, they're like proteins, but they're receptor sites. And the iodine comes along and lands here. The receptor, whatever the hormone was that approved it to come in, is actually unlocking the gate, and then it flows right in. But the reason why it takes energy is the hormone has to be produced to be able to hit the receptor site, and then there's a little bit of energy involved here in this gated channel, either opening or changing shape and swallowing this iodine ion and spitting it out on the other side. So yeah, so there's a little bit of energy involved there. This is an ion, it's not just fluid. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And it's okay if you don't understand what I just said about all that stuff. All you need to know is that's how things get into the cell, that the membrane says, no, you can't come in. That's all I really want you to understand there, is that sometimes the cell membrane says, nope, not going to happen. And you're not coming in because I'm not supposed to let you in, even though we need it inside bad. the cell membrane says, no, that's out of my league. You're going to have to get higher approval. And that's when that kind of stuff happens.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. And just understand that basically most of your solutes or fluid are going to be no energy, and any type of like potassium or chloride or anything else is probably going to need active transport to get across, and that's going to require energy. And that kind of goes back to shock. Like when we said in shock, okay, so let's say you're not breathing that well, or you're bleeding, not, maybe you're bleeding out, right? You're bleeding out, and therefore, you're hypoperfusing. You're getting oxygen in, but you can't get the oxygen to the red blood cell because we're bleeding it out. And so it doesn't matter, irregardless, we're going to have a problem getting aerobic metabolism because of that. And so what happens is, let's say during this process, our potassium gets jacked up because we're bleeding out. And we really need potassium to come back to the inside of that cell. And so even though we're going to die without potassium, the cell membrane don't care. It's like, my job is to block anybody pretty much besides water and fluid. And so we got to get potassium in. Well, the only way we can get potassium in is through active transport, but it requires energy. And unfortunately, sometimes, we're low on energy because we're in anaerobic metabolism. We're only getting 2 moles of ATP instead of the 32. And so that's your patient in the back seat of the car who's a little bit cool, clammy, radial pulses, maybe weak to absent, and they're not talking to you. You're like, hey, what's going on? Their responses are minimal. And you're thinking, this guy might be an asshole. But no, he's not. He's bleeding out and he's conserving energy. He just doesn't have the energy to answer. And those are the ones you worry about. And that's at the cellular level, what's happening. That's what's going on. Osmosis, when you think about osmosis, rather, I'm sorry, it's passive. You don't need energy. It's fluid again. And fluid can cross the membrane pretty easy, no problem. And so osmotic, that's where we get the just know that osmosis, no energy needed. Now, we'll tell you this next slide. This is what you do really got to know this, because you'll see this on registry. You've got to know the difference in hypertonic, isotonic, and hypotonic, because all of our fluids that we give can be different, meaning all the fluid that we carry here at the fire department, the normal saline, sodium chloride, it's an isotonic fluid, meaning that it's exactly the same as the extracellular fluid in the body, and it's not going to cross over the membrane and bring more sodium with it, and then once you get a bunch of sodium inside the cell, it will attract water and cause the cell to burst. No, it's not. It's isotonic. So there are some fluids that are hypotonic fluids, and there's fluids that are hypertonic. And so, because sometimes, for instance, if I have a patient who, let's say, for instance, they have A really high sodium level, and they're retaining all that sodium inside the cells. Well, their cells are going to be swollen. And if I'm in the hospital, the physician may order, something that's hypertonic. He may order a hypertonic solution that's in the IV fluid instead of sodium chloride. And so I'll know then, well, we're drawing water out of the cell. Or maybe the patient's cells are like the hypertonic cell here, and they're collapsed because they're so dehydrated. And so then they may order a hypotonic type of fluid. Okay. So what you need to know is isotonic is normal. Hypertonic means the cell is collapsing. And hypotonic means that the cell is swollen and could risk the death of that cell from it actually bursting. And so you need to know that slide. I would know also the terminology of tonicity. And tonicity, tonicity, is the concentration of a solution or its ability to draw or give water. And so it says the concentration of a solution. Well, the reason why it mentions that is if it is high on sodium, then it's going to want to draw that sodium out of the cell, right? Or if the concentration is low on sodium, it may draw it in. So that's why it mentions concentration. But at the end of the day, tonicity is the concentration of the solution, and it'll be the ability of that to either draw water from the cell or to give water into the cell.
Sir, could you, without going too in depth, could you give some sort of like actual real world application for when you would use a hypertonic or a hypotonic solution for somebody? Because I'm still not really putting it together.
Yeah, the only thing I was thinking of, let's say, for instance, it's kind of confusing, but let's say I do I do a CMP, a chemistry type test on the patient's blood, and it comes back that this patient's sodium is really low. Well, it may not be low. It may be because all the sodium's inside the cell. And it may be that the cell has drawn all the sodium into it and it's swelling. And so what we might do in that case is give a hypertonic type solution to draw sodium out of the cell.
I see.
And that way we can see, if that's once the sodium comes out of the cell, we do a blood test and it comes back, it's higher, it's normal, and we know, okay, that's what's happening. Or the opposite, maybe the sodium's really high. Well, that might mean that the cell is in a hypertonic state and we need to push that sodium back into the cell.
Right.
If that case, we would give like a hypotonic solution.
Got it.
And just always remember isotonic is like this equal. So that's where we kind of want to be. And I think everybody just should remember lysis means if too much water enters a cell, then it swells and bursts. And I just remember lysis and laceration. I don't know why. I think lysis meaning it gets cut and leaks out and dies, or burst and leaks out.
Real quick, you said lysis is when too much water enters the cell during osmosis, so it will bust?
Yeah, absolutely. Like the balloon. If you put too much air in the balloon, it pops.
Mm-hmm.
If you put too much water in that cell, it's going to pop.
Okay.
And
Did
so
you-
I've been talking about it this morning. I'm sure everybody kind of understands. When I talk about intracellular fluid, I'm talking about the fluid inside the cell. And when I talk about extracellular fluid, I'm talking about the fluid that exists outside of the cell membrane. Occasionally we'll talk about the vascular space, and that vascular space is meaning it's covered through your blood, your intravascular fluid, plasma. And then we've already kind of talked about the interstitial fluid. That's like when you have edema and it's leaking out of your skin. Somebody has so much edema in their lower extremities that it's leaking out. That's that interstitial fluid. And that whole fluid balance is just all part of homeostasis. So, and the homeostasis part is like this. It's like if you're losing fluid from any compartment in the body, then the other parts of the body will try to adjust to make that equal concentration. And that's kind of what it does. So if we have an intracellular fluid loss, then it's going to try to send fluid back into the cell. And that would be that would be simple diffusion. It wouldn't require energy. We wouldn't need active transport for that. Ooh, and that's all the new stuff, basically. We start talking now about stuff that you already know pretty well. We know that, cells make tissues, tissue make organs, organs make organ systems. And we know, there's 12 major organ systems in the body. And we know we kind of covered these when we were in EMT school. We talked about the integumentary, meaning the skin, the skeletal muscles, the skeletal bones, muscular. We talked about the 3 types of muscle, the nervous system. We talked a lot about that. We talked some about the endocrine system. We talked a lot about the circulatory system. We talked a little bit about lymphatic, and we're still going to talk a little bit about it. It's not something we're going to really in depth with. We will talk more about the immune system when we get there. We'll talk about, white blood cells and, basically kind of how they do their job because, it's important. We talked a lot about respiratory. We're probably not going to talk any more about digestive than what we've already talked about. Urinary, pretty much the same. And then the same with reproductive. So pretty cool there. And then here's a makeup of all of that. And I kind of like this because it outlines the function of that system. So I would know those. You already probably do know these. I'm not too worried about that, but I would know those. That's a really good slide. And so this is a review. We know those bones, right? They constitute the major structure of the skeleton. We know ligaments connect what? I know y'all know that.
Bone to bone.
Bone to bone. And then tendons, what do they connect?
Muscle to bone.
Very good.
Eat to
Cartilage is, we talked about that too. That's the cushion, right? That's the cushion. That's that cushion. It's in between the spinal column, helps to cushion that. when we're talking about bones, they're classified according to their shape. And so we have long bones, short bones, flat bones, and irregular bones. You know, I'm not, there's nothing new there. I hate joints. I told y'all that. We know that pretty well. You know that. Let's see what else we have. So an orbital fracture, what's that also known as? What's another name for orbital fracture?
Epidural,
No,
subdural.
Blowout.
you said it. Who said that? Was it somebody just said it?
Blowout.
Was it Jones?
Fracture. No, Bradley.
Bradley? It didn't sound
Yes,
like
sir.
Bradley.
Riley's underwater.
Oh, okay. I think Cantrell said it. Cantrell, good job. It's called a blowout fracture. Yeah.
Mr. Morris,
Yes, sir.
I had a quick question about something you said about osmosis. I just want to make sure. You said
Okay.
it's basically moving from low concentration to high concentration. So it's just the opposite of diffusion. Osmosis, right?
Right. It's pretty much it's almost just like diffusion. But in diffusion could include gas like carbon dioxide, right? Going from an area of higher concentration to an area of lower concentration. Osmosis is the same way. It's going to go from high to low, but they needed another name because it's the medical world and there's not enough names. And they wanted to identify fluid, solute.
Yeah, because
Like-
I was looking in the book and
Uh-huh.
it said, at the definition, it said the movement of a solvent such as water from an area of low to high.
Okay.
So asking if it was the difference, if it was the opposite.
Let me just kind of look real quick. And that's fine. If you could call it low to high, and you could go with diffusion high to low, but they basically kind of mean the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
But again, what they wanted was something to identify not just gas but fluid as well, and so they came up with, well, let's call it osmosis.
All right.
And because basically they do like high to low is diffusion, right? But low to high is kind of the same thing. And so, yeah, so just think of it like that. That's fine. You'll be perfect.
So low to high or high to low wouldn't matter. It's really just trying to balance itself out, whether it's inside or outside.
Yes, sir.
Right.
That's,
Okay.
as far as I know, that is correct. I struggled with that in college when I was in biology, and that's how it was explained to me, to think of osmosis as only dealing with just fluid, and think of diffusion of more of a possibility of, a gas or something like that. And that's kind of how I just always just stuck it in the back of my head. Okay, so if I'm dealing with fluid, it's going to be osmosis. And if it's gas, it's probably going to be diffusion. Of course, you guys know my GPA in science is really flat. That's probably the reason why I'm here and not PA school. Oh, me. But anyway, and I'll double check on that just to make sure I'm correct on that, and I'll follow back up. Excellent question. Good questions this morning. 2 good questions. Let me make a note of that real quick. All right. So yeah, the blowout fracture for those orbitals. Everybody remember the spinal column? I would still, remember that. Cervical, thoracic, lumbar, sacrum, and coccyx. And remember the number of.
Mark was at 7. Lunch
Yeah,
at-
lunch at 12. Something at 5 or something like that. Is that how y'all remembered it?
That's how I remembered it.
It's
What's the whole thing?
dinner at 5:54.
Here you go.
Okay.
What?
I don't know. Who was that that said something you
What?
chopped up?
That was Berg. His microphone's jacked.
Okay, Berg.
Crazy Thomas loves sexy cowgirls.
I like that.
Or cowboys, whatever fancies you.
Yeah, we don't judge here. All right. Good deal, man. Good deal. Let's see. Let me slide over here. All right. I'm not really going to. I want you guys to, you can review the slides and you can go through the bones and the muscular skeletal part of it. We covered that. I just don't want to beat a dead horse. If I thought there was something in there new or that I could put a spin on, I would. Don't mind answering questions at all about it. I just think it's something that you guys know or can know. But the respiratory system is always something that seems to be, that and cardiac, this seems to be the hardest thing to get sometimes. We have to know that the structures of the upper airway, right? And so, and I think we kind of know that: nose, mouth, tongue, jaw. We know that the oral cavity, right? We know about it. We know the nasal pharynx. We know how important sounds are. We know, like gurgling, oh my God, we got a suction. We know that stridor, okay, partial airway obstruction. So sounds are extremely important. And those sounds we know are created from air that's forced in and past the vocal cords. We know how the tongue can be a big airway obstructor. That's why if the patient's unresponsive without a gag reflex, what do we put in?
NPA.
They're unconscious without a gag reflex.
OPA.
OPA. OPA.
Thank you. OPA. All right. And so all right. We know a real important, hang on one second. Sorry, guys. Hey, it's Mike. Hey. Yeah, I'm doing the Zoom meeting right now. Everybody showed up. Yeah, Gwen's still feeling bad, so she's not here for the whole thing, but I'm recording it for her. All right. Bye. All right. We know that the larynx, what is the larynx? It's a dividing point. What does it divide?
Lower airway.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah, all right. And so the lower airway. So when we talk about the lower airway, we're talking about below the larynx. So we're talking about the trachea. We're talking about the bronchioles, right? We're talking about the alveoli, the lungs. And we talk about that all important gas exchange, right? CO2 for O2, O2 for CO2. I know, Barker. I know. I figured, well, what the heck? But you're right. I kind of had a feeling it was going to happen. All right. And so, oh yeah. And so what does surfactant do?
Loops things up.
It's
Opens up the
yeah, it's like
alveoli.
on the alveoli, right, to expand it.
That's absolutely right. It increases the surface area of that alveoli. And so I don't know when it was, but before they had synthetic surfactant, all these babies that were born, if their lungs wasn't mature, they were dying. And now, if a child's born and they're lacking that surface area, all the doctor does is drop a quick endotracheal tube and pours some liquid surfactant down the ET tube, and immediately it's fixed. So it's pretty awesome. So yeah, that's how important surfactant is. It increases the surface area so that when those alveoli expand, that they're out there and there's enough surface area to allow that CO2 O2 exchange.
Does surfactant have any like role play when they develop into adults?
I don't think so. I think that you can lose that, surfactant like from COPD, smoking, coal miners call it black lung, things like that do reduce the surfactant. But other than that, I'm not aware of a disease process that specifically causes, excuse me, surfactant to be low. There's lots of things that will affect the surfactant, but I can't think of one that's specific just to surfactant.
Got it.
Okay. All right, so remember that the lungs have that pleural membrane. And they have, and that's two parts, right? So we have the parietal pleural. And what's the other name for the other pleural?
Visceral.
Yeah. So parietal and visceral. And visceral actually covers the lungs, right? And the parietal, it lines the chest wall. Would that be right?
Yes.
Right, exactly. And so so in between that parietal and visceral pleural, what is that called? The in between part of that called?
Pleural space.
Yeah, pleural space or potential space, right? But yeah, and so most of the time it's no big deal at all. I mean, but I think that's why they call it a potential space, because if something happens to where there's an injury to the lung, some type of trauma where penetrating trauma, and that parietal pleural gets injured, it's going to bring air into that potential space, or air and blood into the potential space. And so we're still looking now. Now we're going to talk about the muscles. What's the primary muscle of breathing?
Diaphragm.
The diaphragm, right? And so the diaphragm, completely involuntary, right?
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
It can be
It's
both.
both. You're
It is
breathing.
both. Very good. It is both. It has voluntary and involuntary, meaning if I decide to hold my breath, I can manipulate my diaphragm to do that. I just can't, if once it gets time for me to breathe, I can't stop that process. My diaphragm's going to contract, or it's going to relax as soon as I've held my breath as long as I can. I can't control that part. But if I want to take a breath, I can, and I can control it. So when you're breathing and you're taking and you're exhaling air, does that require energy when I exhale?
No.
Oh,
What if I'm in distress? I'm having an asthma attack and I'm trying to exhale. Might I need energy for that?
Yeah.
You're right. So most of the time, breathing is a passive process, meaning no energy, unless the person's in distress. As a person's in distress, sometimes they have something called air trapping, like asthma, COPD, and they can get air in, but it's hard for them to get air out. That changes it up a little bit, and then you find your muscles working to breathe out and to breathe in. And what are those muscles called that are in between the rib cage?
Intercostal muscles.
Hostile.
That is correct. Those intercostal muscles. What about chronic bronchitis? Chronic bronchitis. So what what is that? What's going on with that?
Mucus in the bronchioles.
Yeah.
alveoli are too big.
Yeah, I'm dealing with a mucus. Yeah, maybe, but mostly it's coming from an overproduction of mucus, right? Because there's mucus glands are down there. Mucus in normal amounts. What would the purpose of mucus be in just the normal amounts?
Lubricant.
It's a lubricant, right? And it also traps particles, right? It's kind of sticky, and so you get dust or something. It's gonna trap that, and sooner or later there'll be a stimulus to cough, and you'll expel that. But with bronchitis, what happens is you get that overgrowth of mucus stimulates the airway mucus glands, and then you get excess mucus, and there you go. Next thing you know, that's called bronchitis.
We're at 45 minutes.
All right, cool. Let's take a 15-minute break, and I'll see you guys in 15.
I think I got bronchitis mixed up with emphysema. Emphysema is where the alveoli would get too big. Yeah. After a while,
I think so too.
they
Yeah.
lose their surface area. Yeah.
Emphysema at barrel chest.
Yep. That is so true.
Everybody.
All right, guys. This commercial break is brought to you by Graham Auto Parts.
Yeah.
This is my son Tank right here. My other son.
Bro, get your dog at the camera.
Yeah, well, it's kind of like stuck there. He
Perez, you look like Bruno Mars with that shirt on.
Yeah.
Is that an American Bulldog?
Yes, it is.
I got one too.
Nice, man.
Oh, what's his name?
My girlfriend asked what's his name.
Her name is Georgia.
Georgia. Nice.
And your girlfriend's there, Perez?
Hey, y'all better stop playing with Perez.
Put it in the camera, Perez. Put it in the camera.
Yeah.
Put it in the camera, Perez.
I'm muting you.
What is it?
Come to the camera.
Put it on the camera for $100.
Put it on the camera, Perez.
Come to the camera.
What?
They're saying for you.
Just make sure that she ain't got no bonnet on.
Yeah.
Man, she ain't gotta get on the camera, man. That's your lady. Everybody ain't gotta see your lady, man.
Damn.
Hey, Perez, you sure that's not your sister?
That's hard to be the voice of reason.
Say
Don't
what?
hide her away. Nobody got to see your girl, bro. Don't hide her away from the world.
She's not. I'm not hiding her. Honestly, she just legitimately doesn't want to show up on the camera.
Man, Perez,
Hide
you
in
ain't
the world.
gotta listen to these dudes, man.
Yeah. All good.
Hey, y'all here. That's all y'all.
What up, Dustin? My boy Dustin. That's my squad leader. Turn up.
Hey, Dustin, bro, you got your shirt on. You got your recruit shirt on.
Yeah.
Ah,
You and Mitchell had your
dude.
recruit shirt on. I said, these
Weirdo.
boys made sure they wasn't gonna get they wasn't gonna get no letters or nothing.
Oh yeah.
Cam over there eating them celery and peanuts still. I see.
Johansson, who you on the phone with? Johansson over there booed up right now. Look at him.
Watching something Bloom sent me. Oh, by the way, like, my girlfriend says like, you know, congratulations on the engagement, Berg. So,
Appreciate it.
yeah.
My boy Big B. What up, Big B?
Capital.
Everybody on here getting engaged.
Oh man.
I really don't appreciate y'all getting engaged in the relationships, all happy and stuff. Because it was supposed to be like a hot boy summer. Y'all really ruining my time. And everybody
Willis,
up here
you turn your
just
camera
getting all
back
booed
on.
up.
Graham, be
Girl,
quiet.
you next. So I don't even know what you're talking about.
Willis, turn your camera back off.
My wife's been out of town for a week, so I got engaged to the streets.
Yes, sir. Welcome back, dog.
Through the streets.
Oh, he
Marcus,
never
let's
left.
be real, bro. That engagement started long before.
What up, Luke?
Thanks,
Luke
y'all.
Alden.
Appreciate it, y'all.
I'm calling it off this Saturday though.
Luke, no Skywalker Alden.
Alden, is that a we? Is that a we?
The Xbox.
Oh.
It's an Xbox.
My dog Anthony Mays.
Well, Alden, we playing Wii Fit.
Switch for the PS5.
Nice.
Man.
About it. Oh, what up, Kubler?
What's up?
My boy Kubler.
Paul, why you got your camera off? What the hell you doing?
Why you want to see me, sissy?
Nah, bro. I'm just wondering. You doing a lot of talking.
He got his bonnet
Ain't
on.
nobody see you, bro.
Because y'all don't need to see me, man. Y'all know I live in the trap house.
That boy a thief in the night.
Kefran.
What you want?
Hey, just say hi. Jeez. My mom got them Xbox headphones on.
I know, right?
Amonth, are you in a bar?
He playing the game right now. He ain't even in class.
Man, where's Cornelius Mitchell? Cornelius.
Is here?
He just on the call. Everybody else, they got their camera on.
Isaiah Grimm. Y'all, I know y'all see his profile picture.
Hey, all I gotta say is anybody that got who got a damn V-neck on right now, y'all really cream pie.
What?
Run that by me again. What?
He said,
"What up, Henny? Henny the goat."
Hey, see what y'all don't realize is that this
Henny.
junk is still being recorded.
Well, this commercial is brought to you by Skeletal.
Oh, that thing you getting recorded.
On standby.
Again,
All y'all getting
name,
letters. That's all I got to say.
My name is Recruit Jones.
My name is Gray.
Oh, fuck now.
Hey, Gray, how did skydiving go?
Oh, that's rescheduled.
Oh yeah, what's the date for that?
I think this Sunday. That's Cantrell.
This Sunday?
Yeah.
How many people are still in it?
Dixon, that's a new dog. How many dogs you got?
Dixon with the recruit sweater on.
I did not think it was possible, but a lot of y'all are ugly in real life.
It is a blessing to be here, y'all. It's a blessing. Remember that, man.
Ugly part-time.
Some people ain't got Zoom. Some people can't get on Zoom.
Some people don't got cameras. They had to go get one, right?
Some people ain't got no Wi-Fi.
Dr. Moore says the big Texas, huh?
I'm trying to figure out.
It looked like some of y'all ain't got no toothbrush. All them yellow teeth I'm seeing.
Hey, this thing getting recorded, man. I forgot about that.
Wait, is Instructor Morris really eating a Big Texas?
It is Big Texas.
Hey, unmute yourself, Instructor Morris. We need to
Double
hear that.
decker oatmeal cream pies.
You gotta put it in the microwave for 15 seconds.
Did you buy that from Canoe for $1?
He definitely ain't putting
no,
it
That's cheap. Canoe taxing. Canoe want $225.
$225. I got
All you gotta
ripped
do
off
is just
down
type
there,
a Luke.
He said
$1.75.
supply and demand. Supply and demand.
You're right. You're right.
Am I really in an economics class right now, or am I in the Fire Academy?
You're not even.
Instructor Morris, when I get back there, that vending machine better not be empty, all right?
It won't be. It's still full. I try not to go to it a lot.
Tell Instructor Martin too.
It's okay. There'll still be Nature Valley bars and.
Hey, I tear those day bars up, but I bring my own.
Exactly.
All I know is nobody better touch my oatmeal cream pies.
They're down there.
Have those in the vending machine.
I saw them in the machine.
Instructor Morris, I just want you to go into the classroom and just put a pen from Graham's desk on everybody's chair. He come back.
I tell you right now, if y'all want to see me not at this fire department anymore, touch my pens and pencils.
Bet. That's a plan.
Send me your address.
I better have 8 pens, 8 pencils, and 30 rubber bands to each side.
Grim, don't lock in. It's all good.
Grim, don't lock them up.
Okay.
Hey, Grim, you code 4?
Oh, Grim, lock it up, man.
Well, you don't want Grim locked in, man.
I'm gonna have somebody by their neck.
That's right.
I tell you about touching my pens.
Maze.
5 minutes.
You need to shut up, dog.
Maze, how you feeling?
Crappy.
Okay.
Barely. Brings me so much joy with all y'all here.
Yeah.
This is
you're one of the victims.
Yeah, where's Hicks? You've taken
Maze,
it.
Wynn, and Hicks, is that it?
Man, Maze, why you ain't say nothing, man? I was talking to you in your face.
He didn't know, I don't think, till after he was already out of here.
Yeah. I didn't want to excite you, Grim.
So is everybody encouraging us to get tested even if we don't have symptoms, or is only if we have symptoms?
Only
Definitely, if you're symptomatic, we'd like you to get tested.
But I guess I'll still get tested anyway.
The thing about it is, like,
If you drink,
most everybody's out of the exposure point here. So if you catch it, probably because you got it somewhere else, you know.
Yeah.
Still, it doesn't matter. If you got it, we don't. Yeah, we want you to take care of yourself.
Well, I took the liberty of making me a test for 12:15 because my nose feel a little tingly.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good idea. That seems to be how it kind of starts. It was for me too when I had it.
Your nose and that pressure
at first, and then just went from there.
Tingly nose, like that sinus pressure.
Yep. So yeah.
Interesting, man. Pretty interesting. Are they at that Delta variant?
Yeah, I think that's probably what's going on right now.
I'm about to go on shutdown again.
That's the only thing that could get Graham would be the Delta Force variant. It's got to be Delta, man. Otherwise, it don't get Graham. It comes up, just goes crying. It just turns away.
I tell you, instructor, you better let them know.
I will let him know.
Ain't nobody worried about Graham.
Alden, what are you doing?
Let's start a
Oh,
Twitch.
what are you watching? Oh my God, you're gaming. Oh my God.
Oh, well, at least he ain't got no shame about it.
No, he don't. I mean, Alden, he doesn't.
There's no
Alden,
shame
you're
about
trash,
it.
bro.
Before this, I haven't played
Alden,
Xbox for at
you're
least
gonna
like
receive an email for a letter. Just make sure you print it out and then fax it over to the.
How am I supposed to get him a letter when he's probably playing against Instructor Lillard?
Thank you. You take her down.
You know,
You got it.
I wouldn't doubt it. Sam, slow down, Alden. You're trying to lock in too fast.
Yeah, Alden, you only got a minute and 20 seconds left.
You running through that building.
Yeah, Alden, please power the game off, sir, and lock in.
Well,
I think everyone's already dead. Oh, there's one person left.
So,
All right, lock in. We got 47.
Okay.
This is my. Oh wait.
Alden, why you smell the BO on your armpits for?
What?
You ain't slick. I saw you.
that's what meth addicts do.
He started sweating watching that dude run on that.
Oh man.
Yeah, that was my daily PT.
I hear you.
We noticed.
There it is. We only got about 30 more minutes, so we'll be done with this. I mean, like I said, it's that first part, man. It's a little difficult because it's new material, but this all should look familiar. All right, so when we talk about physiology of the respiratory system, we got to talk about gas exchange, right? And we know that whole process is about diffusion, right? And we know it's a higher concentration to a lower concentration. We've got, CO2 diffusing from the red blood cell into the alveoli because there's no CO2 there. And we got O2 coming into the alveoli because there's no O2 there. Higher concentration to lower. And we know that we do know about the blood entering the left side of the heart. What's the vessel name? Blood enters.
Vena cavus.
Yeah. Very good. Very good. Very good.
Dr. Morris.
Mm-hmm.
You mean the right side of the heart? Because when I look down,
I think I
look
did
at my
say left.
Yeah.
Right. You got me. Yep. I did mean that. I did say left, though. I certainly didn't mean to, though. Thanks. Good catch.
Boo, it's in.
Yeah. So right here, it's just talking about oxygenated blood, right? So it's coming from the right side, sends it to the lungs for oxygenation. After it gets oxygenated, it comes back to the left atrium and eventually through the aorta. So yeah. So the primary function of the respiratory system would be to do what?
Breathe.
Okay.
Exchange gas.
Yes.
Ooh, Suda.
Yeah.
So he's just like, he's changing. All right. So when we talk about the chemical control of breathing, though, that's might be a little foggy, right? So I don't know if I really like this slide, though. I don't really demonstrate it too much.
I like this slide.
'Cause I don't see the brain. But the brain controls, automatically controls breathing, right? Yep, pretty much, sort of. I'm gonna have this app fixed up tomorrow, so y'all can just do your phone. But how does low blood oxygen level stimulate breathing? What receptor notifies the brain that, hey, this is low?
Baroreceptor.
Chemo.
I heard chemo, and that's
Chemo.
correct. Chemoreceptors are reading, they're reading O2 and CO2, right? And so if it does notice that the O2 level is low, it will stimulate the breathing. And we know that hypoxic drive means what?
Oxygen levels.
Like your body's regulating its oxygen balance based on oxygen readings
Right.
instead of CO2 readings.
You're right. And so the disease process that normally causes that, it's emphysema, right? And once the body starts reading such high levels of CO2, it's like, hey, I can't do this anymore. Your CO2 level is always so high. So it switches to reading O2 levels, which gives it that hypoxic drive, meaning low O2 levels causes a response, a drive response to breathe. Very good. All right. So I'm going to stop here because I don't want to introduce acid-base balance right now. So tomorrow I will introduce acid-base balance. So if you want to get ahead, read over that part of the book that talks about acid-base balance. So you can have maybe some questions, stuff like that, because it's, yeah, I've taught it so much, I don't find it confusing, but I bet if I was a student, I definitely probably would.
Definitely is.
Yeah. So, we're going to talk about it tomorrow, try to break it down for you. And we'll talk about some of the stuff that goes on with that. I will open up the classroom for anybody who needs help with any part of the chapter, that maybe questions or whatever. It's not mandatory. It's only for those people who need help. I'm going to open it up at 1 o'clock. So if I don't see anybody there by about 1:30, I'm just going to close it down. But it'll be open at 1 should you need any assistance with any of that stuff that we've talked about already. I'll work on the app. Suda, the ebook thing that she did email me back. Our account apparently does not have ebook access. I have her sending me a quote to figure out exactly how much that's going to cost, and I'll present it to the upper chain of command to try to get that done.
I didn't ask anything about an ebook, sir.
Edson.
That was me.
I meant Edson. I said
Okay.
Sue, but I meant Edson.
They do look alike, sir. It's okay.
Don't say that.
He's just thinking about you,
They
Sue.
act just alike.
Those are balding.
Yeah, they're both balding.
One of us can't accept it. The other.
I will. I've recorded the video like halfway through, but tomorrow I'll try to record all the class sessions. That way, I'll put it on. I'll put it on the site for you guys to, in case you need to review it. Is there any questions?
Is it a new email we get for tomorrow's class, or is it the same one, same time and everything?
I'll send out a link for today's 1 o'clock and for tomorrow's 9 o'clock.
Yes,
It may be the same. I don't know. Don't know. All right. Any more questions? Hang on. Let me get this timer off the screen so you can maybe see me instead of looking at a timer. You share. Well, take this off. Bam. Can you guys see me now?
You're still sharing your screen, so
Hey, I'm trying to. Oh, here we go. There we go.
Now you're on full screen.
Cool. All right. Anybody have questions for me? Y'all good? Feeling okay?
Yep.
All right.
Yes, sir.
All right. So, I'll send that email out now. And so for the 1 o'clock, and then I'll send for tomorrow's too. All right. Have a good have a good rest of your day. Study. And tomorrow, like I said, take some time to read about acid base. And tomorrow we'll have a good day.
Sir.
All right.
Absolutely. Stay ahead of the game, y'all.
Yeah.
Stay locked in.
That's what I say.
now
Stay
log
locked
out.
in.
Locked in.
Catchphrase.
I know. I like it.
Okay.
Now I can say that if I want.
Is it out there or we wait until 12?
What's that?
Wait, can I leave or we wait till 12?
Yeah, you're done.
Okay.
You're done. Unless you need me at 1 o'clock, you could come back. If not, I'll see you tomorrow at 9.
Sure.
Yes, sir.
All right. Everybody
All right,
have a
y'all.
good one. Later.
Later.
Hey, Instructor Morris.
Yeah.
When it's time for us to re-register for the test, do we come to you for it, or we just do it on our own?
When it's time to re-register for the test, what's that?
Do we do it on our own? Just
Yeah, I'll
on-
let you guys re-register. If you don't mind, just send me an email so I can send you a voucher.
Okay.
That way, you can pay for it.
Yes,
If
sir.
you run into problems, something, I'd be glad to help you register, but I think you probably remember how.
Quick